Okay, good morning everyone. So this is the last tutorial for this semester. For today we're going to talk about how to set material inside Rhinosys. And I think in the previous tutorial we have already talked about that, but for this time we will talk something more detailed stuff. So first is let's take a look. As far as you know, inside Rhinosys we have different display mode. We have wireframe mode, we have shading mode, we have render mode, and also we have a ray trace mode. Okay? And for the ray trace mode, it was the most precise and also most accurate rendering mode. As far as you can see, once you transform to ray trace mode, it will become a lot of noise and dots. What's that mean? It means for now it will start to calculating the light. All the rays, all the light inside the ray trace mode, it will start to do this kind of global illumination and ray tracing. Basically, you can just imagine that for this time the light come from here and then it will bounce again and decrease the strength and bounce again and until the end it goes to 0 powers. So that's how it works. And for ray trace mode, it's also the one which we are using for rendering. It means right here. Once you click this button using your the left mouse button, you can start to do the rendering. So basically, ray trace mode and the rendering button, they are the same things. But for ray trace mode, it was very heavy. So usually when I just want to do some preview or maybe I want to do some interactive modeling, I will use in render mode. It will be easier, also more faster, but as far as you can see, the render and reflections and the material is not that precise at all. But anyway, we can switch in between these two different modes to get the best result. So let's take a look about the material setting and the light setting. So first things, let's go to the light setting right here. Material setting right here. As far as you know, the rectangle means the display color, which means you will only see them in shading mode. If you change this one to become yellow, it will show yellow color. And it only show the color, it doesn't show any other things. And let's go to render mode. Inside render mode, you can preview the material setting. So let's click here, metal. As far as you can see, once you click the material bowl, you will see this material setting inside this panel. And for now, this is the name of the material. And also, if you scroll down the list, you can see there are some material inside this model. There's all the materials inside this model. Because I have imported some material resource which I downloaded from the internet, so there are a lot of different material which I never see and I never used before. Okay, so and another way is that you can go here and scroll down the list to see what kind of material you have inside this model. So this is the what you can do inside the right side menu. Let's go to the layers managers. Click here again. So you can see the material, all the material right here, or you can see go to this section to see the different material. Alright. So let's take a look. For now, you can rename the material which you create. So let's create a new layers. Okay, right here, and I will just create a new material for this one. And let's say probably material test. Alright, so inside Rhinosys, basically just like all the other 3D software, we have different type of material property. Usually, the most useful one is customs, metal, glass, gems, and pen. And for the rest, I seldom use them. And also sometimes I will use plasters. So let's take a look of all these different material. First things, let's go to the plasters. For plaster, basically there's nothing you can change. The only things you can do is color. Let's create a bowl inside the plaster, and also we can hide all the rest apart. Right now I have turned on grasshopper, so we can turn off the grasshopper. And let's create a box right here. And put this one inside this layer, change object layers, and let's start to change the layers. Okay, so now let's change the material into yellow and click OK. So as far as I can see, once you put this object inside this layer, it will change the color based on the layers. So it's because for now this object, the material of this object was based on the layer, not on the object. If you check this, select this box and go to material, and you can see right now the setting of this object is use layer material. And you can choose another one. For example, you can just directly choosing, okay, I want to be 3. So for now, this object will not be affected by the layer anymore. Even for now, it was located in the layer 1 and the material is plaster and is a yellow plaster color. But for now, we can assign a independent material for the object. So you can change the setting right here. Based on different kind of material, different kind of object, you can assign different individual material for each object. But usually I prefer using layer material to manage all the object. Okay, so here is about the setting for the object. And let's go to the material setting. For plaster, basically the only things you can change is about the color. Plaster is something which has no reflection, it only has the color. So you can change the color by click here. And also you can go to this menu, go to the scroll down list and choosing different kind of slider. RGB slider, HSV slider, CMYK slider, and custom colors. For say, that's the traditional setting for rhinoceros. So you can choose a different type of color right here. And for plaster, basically if you have used another 3D software before, like Maya, Blender, or CDS Max, basically plaster is the Lambert material. Lambert material, you will see that very often in another 3D software. And plaster is the Lambert inside Rhinos. Okay, so if we choose this one and we go to customs, we change the type of the material to customs. What will we see? Basically for customs, you can see all the setting, all the detailed setting of the material. And for the plaster or picture plastic, it will hidden some parameters for you because we don't need to do that for the material. So if you go to custom, you can see all the detail. And if you're choosing the plaster first, and then you go back to customs, it will keep the setting of the plasters. So if you want to keep the setting of plastic, let's take a look of this one. For example, like this one, reflectivity, transparency, something like that. If you change this way, and if you go back to custom, it will keep the setting for you. So that's something we can do. For example, if you want to do a metal material like this is a metal material, but you want to keep this setting and you want to have more detailed parameter, you can choose the metal material first and go to the custom material. So it will keep the setting of the metal material for you. Right? So that's about how we can do. And let's take a look of the custom material first. That's the most important things. For custom material, it includes all the detail setting for your material bowl. So first thing for color, that's something for sure. You can choose the color by yourself. The gloss finish and the reflectivity. The gloss finish is something more about specular color. So it's just like a reflection on a smooth plastic bowl. And if you increase this one more, let's create a sphere so that we can see more clear. Let's choosing a sphere, this one, and put this sphere inside. Okay. If you choose this one more, well, the reflections will be way more stronger. But if we reduce this one, and also reduce this one, as far as I can see, this part become more blurred and not that obviously reflections. And for reflectivity, it's about the reflection powers of the object. So if you make this one become 100%, basically for this one, if we switch to the ray trace mode, this one will just like a mirror. It will reflect everything from the environment. Okay, so if you move this one, basically as far as you can see, since here it will also reflect. It will reflect the object. Okay, so that's the things about the reflectivity. The gloss finish is just about the reflections area, and if you increase more, it will be more sharpened. If you reduce that one, it will be more blurred. And for the reflectivity, it's about the resolution of the reflections from the environment. If you increase 100, it will just become like a mirror. It can reflect everything outside uh, from the surrounding. But if you decrease this one to 0, it will reflect nothing. Okay? And last one about the transparency. So for sure it's about the transparency in seating. And what's the meaning of IOR? It's about refractions. If you increase this one, the light will be reflected. So create this kind of different transition between different material and different material. So if we go to here, let's go to the ray trace mode. And if you increase this number to 1.5, click OK. And let's put this one inside. As far as you can see, in the border, it will create a reflections border for you. Okay, so that's something about the setting of refraction. If we increase more, it will the reflection will be even more stronger. But they only can see that inside the the ray trace mode. Okay, so let's take a look of the basic setting: color, gloss finish, reflectivity, and transparency. And all this setting right here, basically they are they are the general setting for all 3D software. No matter you are going to use in Blender, Maya, or 3ds Max, right? They have the similar setting, probably with different name, but the setting is pretty much the same. So now let's go to the coloring part, the texture parts. For the textures, I will suggest you go to a website. Here is the website. You can type in Polyheaven, this one. And inside Polyheaven, it will provide you some really high resolution textures. And we call this one PBR texture. What does that mean? Which means physical base material. Physical base textures. So as far as I can see right here inside this website, it provides you some very high resolution texture like the brick, like a tile, or like different type of path and dirty material. So you can download the texture from this website. And inside this website, we need to tell you something. Here is the thing. Usually inside the material bowl, it contains at least 4 different textures. Let's go to the download folders. For example, like inside here, usually we will have diffuse textures. That's the first one. And second one, the rough textures. And sometimes we will have bump displays or bump textures. And for the other software, we also have normal textures. And for bump and displays and normal texture, they have the similar effect. Okay, this is normal, but we cannot see right here because the format is different. It was EXR image, and for the displacement and the bump texture, they are just a JPEG file or maybe BMP file format. Okay, so this one is to create the unflattened surface from the geometries. So with this one, we can create this kind of pattern on the geometries. And for diffuse, usually it's just for creating the color. Okay, and inside Rhino, we doesn't have so many tempo channels. Okay, so we only have color channel, transparent channel, bump channel, and environment channel. And usually we will just use these 3. So let's assign the material for this box and for these layers. So let's choosing the polywood diffuse for color. Okay, and I will reduce this one and reflectivity to very little. And as far as you can see, now you can see the material. And the gloss finish, I guess we can also reduce this number. And since we assign this one, this doesn't matter anymore. And we need to make this one go back to default setting. Okay. White color, and also set this one for white color. Okay. So this is just for color, and you can decrease the power right here. Okay. And also, if you click the material, here you can see there is some detail setting about the material. If you think the map is too large, you can go to the mapping setting, repetitions. You can type in bigger numbers, and you will reduce. It will make your stuff become even more smaller. Okay, that's the setting. Just imagine that we are trying to tile in this object. And if you type in smaller, like the 0.01, okay, like the 0.01, as far as you can see, the texture become even more bigger. Alright, so let's go back to the beginning. And another thing very important, here is about the mapping type. Just imagine, this is just a rectangle texture, and we have to wrap this texture to this geometry. And how can we do that? So inside Rhino6, we also have it also provides the unwrap UV function for making that work. But this time, I would just suggest you maybe using easier way, because unwrap UV for functions is not very good inside Rhino6 compared to Blender or Maya. And so let's take a look of this one. Mapping channel, here is the first one. Basically, it's just UV map. Since this one is just a sphere, so we're using this one, it works. And for box style, what's that mean? Basically, you can just imagine it will project, it will make a bounding box. Let's click OK and OK. For the box style, you can just imagine that it will create an invisible box and project the textures based on all these different feeds to the sphere. Okay, so sometimes if we just want to create using the we just want to using a very regular box and give it some textures. I think we can use in the box one. Okay, and screen. That's a very interesting functions. Okay, the screen is based on the camera we see the object. So no matter how you rotate, as far as you can see, the texture doesn't move at all. It's just like a filter on your screen. So that no matter what direction you see, you still can see the texture, but it was still a static material. It doesn't rotate or doesn't change based on your object. So usually we will just using this one, okay, the mapping channel, and click OK. Alright, the second one, the bump and normal. Let's choosing a bump map. Usually for bump map, it will just black and white material. So I will choose this one. If the material you download, it doesn't have the texture which name bump, you can choose in rough or displacement to replace them. And sometimes the normal it also work. Alright, you can choose the normal material as well and click OK. Let's take a look. Alright, works. So inside Rhino6, it also supports the normal material or bump material. Normal material is just the things you see. Usually it will look like this kind of purple color, and it has some gradient on the surface based on the height of the pattern. And bump material, let's try to using bump material, okay? Choosing maybe this one. Click OK. And for bump material or the displacement material, usually it will become black and white color. And for this type of material, it will just use using black and white color to represent the height of the unflattened surface. So the black, which means it was engraving, and the white color, which means it will be higher. So if you increase more, let's type in 115. Sorry, the maxima is like this. So anyway, if you increase the number right here, let's take a look. If you reduce the number right here, as far as you can see, if you go to probably just 30, the unflattened area actually it will be decreased. If you go to 100, as far as you can see, right now, the unflattened area will getting stronger. Okay, so that's how it works. And also for transparent, it's the same logic. If you inside when we are working on the bump node, the black part, which means it was engraving, the white part, which means it was solid and also higher than the other part area. So for transparency, is using the same logic. Black part is transparent, and white part, it was solid. So we can use this way to do some pattern on our geometries. So for now, I don't have one. So let's go to Google it. Try to find black and white color pattern. For example, like this one. You just download this, save, and let's go to here. Oh, this one is not a JPEG file, so probably I have to find another JPEG file. Let's go to this. Let's take a look. Oh. Okay, this PNG file, it can work. Let's go to here and find this one. Okay, so as far as we can see, black becomes transparent and white becomes solid. So that's the things about how we can use in transparent mode. And for sure, you can also using the setting right here, it will still affect the transparent part, like change the IOR as far as you can see. Now we have the border. Alright, so that's the basic setting about the textures. The next part, I will keep this one. The advanced setting, basically we don't use in this one that often. First thing is about self illuminations. If we check this one, and also go to emission color, change this one to the color white, like white color, it will make this one glowing. Alright, you can make your object glowing. So if you go to ray trace mode, it's not that obviously inside render mode, but it can be seen inside the ray trace mode. So let's change some setting and make it work. First thing is I have to remove all of them. Remove. Alright. Ray trace mode. Alright. So first thing is, in order to make them work, I will increase the maximum value for gloss finish and the reflectivity. And also turn on actually we don't have to turn on this too. And check the self-illumination and image color, and you can change the image color as well. That's something for sure. Okay. Let's reduce the reflectivity. Alright. So actually, although it's not very obviously, but actually for now, it was glowing a little bit, very little, very tiny, a glowing effect. So it's another thing we can do for this one. And for vernier reflectivity, that's something we usually will use for making some realistic metal reflections. So if you want, you can try to turn on this one, but usually I don't use that often, very often, because this part it will take a lot of resource from your laptop. Okay, so here is the basic setting about the material. Alright, so let's go to the final part about the rendering part. Inside, on the last section of the render part, that's the render setting. Let's go back to render mode. Inside Rhino 6, you can choose your legacy render or the latest render. What's the meaning of render? Basically, render it means that for now, before rendering, all the things you see basically they are just 3D models. It was composed by vertex, edge, surface, and make them become a solid geometries. And also, we're using the material to assign different color and texture to them. But if you want to make this one become a real geometry or realistic geometries, realistic image, we need to render them. We need to calculate the light. We need to calculate the setting from the environment so that it will become realistic. So usually since if you are using Rhino 7, I would just suggest you using Rhino Render. And if you are using Legacy Rhino 6, you can choose in Legacy Rhino Render. I think it doesn't change that much. And right here you can change the resolutions. Okay, you can choose in the resolution quality. And so for sure, if you want to get higher, you can make this one higher. But it will take more time to do the rendering. And remember, using 1 hour to even 2 hours, 3 hours for rendering is something very common sense. If your laptop is not very powerful or you don't have a very good graphic card, or if your graphic card is not running, well, it takes 3 hours or 4 hours to render. That's very common sense. Okay, so another thing is quality for render. So for sure, it's about the accuracy of the lighting bounds. So if you choose in final quality, it will take more time to do the rendering, but the result will be way more precise. And for a backdrop, you can choose in solid color like this one. Just using for now, this part will not be affected by the preview right here. You can just do the things you want. Let's go to the ray trace mode. You can choose in the color you want, like the red color or something, but for now, it will not be affected by the preview mode. Or gradient color, you can choose in gradient color right here. But usually inside Rhino 6, Rhino 7, I prefer using studio material. Studio, what's the meaning of studio? Basically, the studio material is HDRI material for rendering. HDRI material basically it was an image which contains the information from the environment lighting. So you can download the HDRIs from the Polyheaven as well. And as far as I can see, they have many different settings, but some setting doesn't fit with Rhinos. Okay, so you need to choose very carefully. HDRI has different kind of format. Some HDRI is cubic, and like this type of HDRI, they are circular. So inside Rhino, I think it was sitting in cubic material. So it's a little bit different. You have to choose them carefully. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Alright, so HDR material, and you can choose in the HDR material about the ambient color and also the intensity from the skyline. If you increase more, it will be lighter. If you reduce this one, it will be darker. And here is the detailed setting about the rendering. Whether you want to render the curve, whether you want to render a surface edge, which means something you can see on the shading mode. If you want to render them, you can do that. You can do the setting as well. Okay, let's go to ray trace mode. So for the gamma and all the advanced setting, I will avoid to expand them for now because this part is a little complicated. We can expand this kind of detail when we are going to do the animations inside Blender or Maya. Then you will have something more complete and intact setting for the detail setting. So let's take a review for this one. First thing, choosing the render engine you want to use. I will use in Rhino Render, and you can choose in Legacy Rhino Render as well. And the view, very important. You can choose in specific viewport so that you can choose in right or top or front, and or probably if you have already set up some camera, you can choose that as well. Alright, so Usually I would choose in current viewport or some specific viewport and choosing the one which I want to use. And resolution and quality. For this time, I hope you can choose a higher resolution, at least more than 2K, which means 2048. Alright? And for the quality, you can choose in draft. I think draft quality is quite enough, so I will just choose this one. And for the backdrop, I will use in the studio material, a studio environment to rendering, so it will look better and has more detail. For the lighting and setting, you can choose in whether to turn on the sunlight or the skylight. So inside Rhinosis, actually we can see the location of the sun. But rather than using this one, because I will make a artificial light inside Rhino, so I will not use this one, but I will still turn on the skylight. The skylight will affect the entire environment. If you increase more, the environment will be even more lighter. Okay, as far as you can see. Alright, so I think that's the setting about the render environment. Alright, so finally let's take a look about the render tools right here. I will use in render because you can save more resource from my laptop. So inside the render tools, let's go to render tools. Actually, there's still a lot of things you can try to explore, like the animations sitting inside Rhino. But in the animation sitting inside Rhino is not very good thing because unlike Maya or unlike Blender, you cannot animate object inside Rhino. You can only animate the camera. So it's not very useful for me. So if I want to make animations, I will go to another software. I will make a product or a prototype inside Rhinosys, but go to another animation software to make the animations. Alright, but anyway, let's take a look about render setting. What's the meaning of render setting? In order to make this object, let's delete these two, and let's turn on everything. Okay, so now we have all these things. So, and in order to make them look realistic, for sure we need to set up some light inside the setting, the render tool setting here. And there is something we can do. First things, inside Rhinosys we have these 5 different type of light. The first one is spotlight. Let's try to create a spotlight. Unfortunately, for the spotlight, you cannot see them inside the render mode. We have to switch to the shading mode so that we can see where we put the spotlight. I will go to the render view. So let's choose this one, and you can change the directions. Spotlight basically is just like a cone-shaped light. And usually we will use this one for the interior, like the gallery or like the restaurant. If you want to if you want to light up the bar or maybe light up the painting, we can use in spotlight. So spotlight will create a very sharp and also very specific shading for your object. And also, as far as you can see, once we have a very obvious shape, if we go to the ray trace mode, it will be even more obvious. Okay, right here we have this one. And for sure, we can go to do some edit about the spotlight. So go to the object data property, and you can change the intensity, increase the intensity right here. And if you increase more, it will be even more lighter. And for the shadow intensity, you can decrease this one. If you don't want to see the very obvious shadow, you can decrease this one. And for the border of the shadow, for example, if you before that the border is very clear, so if you can make this one probably more clear or make this one more blurred. Alright, so that's the things we can do. And for full off, if you're choosing constant, the light will not be decreased based on the distance. It will keep the same setting, keep the same strength, no matter how far or how long. But if you choose linear or inverse square, well, it will decrease based on the distance. Alright? So this is the first one. let's go to take a look of the second one. This the point light. Point light usually we can use in this one for some interior setting like a light bulb, or if you want to light up the screen, you can use this one as well. Okay, right here. For example, you can use this one to light up uh, the back part of the right here, the jet engines of the rocket. That's the things you can do, or you can use this one to simulate a sun sphere. It's too slow, so I will switch to shading mode and then go back. Set view, go to the top view, go to the ray trace mode. Okay, so as far as you can see, once you use this one, you will light up the interior, and for sure you can increase the intensity, make this one lighter, and also you can change the color, like a red color, or maybe another different type of color. Alright, so for point light, it's very good for using that in interior, and also you can use one to light up certain specific area. Alright, so let's go to using the direction lighting. Direction lighting basically it was sound. If you use this one, no matter where you put this one, everything will be light up and it will affect all the objects. Doesn't matter about the distance, it doesn't matter about the positions, it will affect all the objects. It's just like a sound. So rather than go to the render setting and using the sound, I prefer using this one. And for sure, you can change the color and the intensity. If you prefer to have a warmer color, you can make this one become yellow and also change the intensity as well. All right. So that's about especially when you are going to simulate the architecture or environment, we can use this one. And final things, the linear light and the rectangular light, I will see them as the same things. I will have to delete some of the lighting, otherwise it will be too slow. Okay, so let's take a look of the area lighting. Area lighting is very useful, and for the linear lighting, basically, linear lighting is just like a smaller version of the area lighting. Area lighting is very useful because the result usually will look more smooth, and also the effect I think is better compared to the other, like compared to spotlight or the other different spotlight or point light. Let's increase this one. Type in 20 or 30. Usually, if you want to light up something and you want to have a very smooth shadow or a very smooth result, I prefer using area lighting because it will create a volumetric lighting for all the objects. Okay, unlike the spotlight, usually it will only focus on specific area. We can create an area lighting like this and to light up the entire object. Okay, so for linear lighting, I think it's just a smaller version of the area lighting. So let's take a look about the setting of the light. First thing is, I will use in render mode because it will save more resource, and also I will hide the unnecessary object. So let's take a look. First thing still I will use in a direction lighting to light up everything. So and it's just like a song, so you need to choose the directions. And if it was more, the angle was more small, it will looks like a sunset or something. And I prefer the light probably be more cold, so I want to use in some blue color. And for the intensity, it doesn't have to be very strong. All right, let's go to the setting, set view, and the parallel one. And let's go to the ray trace mode. Alright, so now we have this one. Now for shadow intensity, I will decrease the power because I still have another one. So maybe go to 30 or something. Smaller, 20. Alright, so next also the intensity, it doesn't have to be that strong. Maybe just 3. And for render quality, I will reduce the intensity of the skylight. So maybe just, if you want, you can just turn off this one, but it will be too dark. So I will still turn on this one, but just type in 0.5, 0.85. Alright, so this is the basic setting. And next part, the things I want to do is using the spotlight or area lighting to light set up a certain area. So let's type in, this is the first spotlight. Rotate this area. Okay, let's move this one down, go to the top view, and also if you choose this one, we can enlarge the area of the spotlight. Usually when we are working on our lighting, I would make 3 lights. This one could be the major lighting, and let's hold on auto and your gumbo, we can create a second light. And the second light is supposed to be weaker, so I will just make this one probably half intensity of the first one. If this one is, let's say this one is 1.5, and the second one probably is only 0.7 or 0.6. And finally, the final one, let's hold on Auto key again and rotate this one. And finally, this one is to light up the back side. So this one is the weaker. So I will just make this one maybe 0.2. Alright, just like this. Okay, so something just like this. And if you want to have a more stronger reflections, you can increase the power of the light. Let's move this one to the side so that it will not affect it. So for this, let's make this one as the major one. So I will type in 1.5. Maybe try to strengthen this one. And this one weaker, this one. And this one even more weaker. Alright. And the more. And also, don't forget to take a look of the height. So let's go to the side view, from right view, go here, this one down, and for this one as well. Here we go. Okay, let's go to the render view, ray trace mode. Alright, and also for sure right now we only see the gray color. We can do the background setting render setting, or we can go to ray trace mode and using different kind of setting right here. So probably I will just using the same setting like what we did inside render mode. Alright, so once you finish your setting, for example, let's assume this one as the final one, and for the still image, if you want to using the ray trace mode to do the render, it's better not to using grasshopper to do the interactive. For the still image, you don't have to do that, okay? And once you finish the setting, you can click here, and you will start to render. And it will take time for you to finish, because this one it requires more setting about the. It will require more resource from laptop to do the rendering, and it will take for a while. Okay. So this is the finished result. Actually, I think the shadow is still too obviously, and also because I have turned off the studio light right here, so the light become a little bit too sharp. So if you want, you still can do readjustments and try to make the shadow and the result better. Anyway, I will leave this part by yourself, okay? But take a look of the details right here about the reflections and the shadow. That's the major difference between the ray trace mode and render mode. For render mode, it's just a preview, so it's not very precise. And for ray trace mode, it will be way more precise compared to the render mode. And also right here, you can try to add on some, for example, like the poster effect, like glowing. If you want to make the cloud glowing, you can try to add on. And also like the fog, you can try to add on some post-production filter right here. Alright, I don't like the filter, but I like the glow. So once you finish, you can save your image. I prefer you guys to save as PNG file or TIFF file. This one, they will lose any quality of your image. Okay, so this is about the still image for the final render. And if your laptop is not powerful enough, you can sorry for that. You can also use in render mode. I think it is acceptable. If your laptop is not powerful enough, you can just use in render mode and using the view capture to file to tackle to save the image. But still, the quality is supposed to be at least 2K size. All right. So that's another way. And finally, if you forget or if you have no idea how to using record your video, basically you can take a look of our tutorial right here. Okay, you can take a look of the 16 and 17. Here is some introductions about how to record the video. All right, so
YouTube or Spotify,
I just
or
using
even
the old camera to record the screen, and editing them with free software which was named Frogman Factory, and so that's the things you can do. But if you know something better software like the Premiere or After Effects, for sure you can use that for poster editing your video. Okay, so that's all for today and all for this semester. Hopefully you enjoy this semester and try to follow the progress and do your best. Alright, so that's all for this time. See you next semester. Bye.